all, and welcome to the next episode of the Horror Countdown podcast. I'm your host, Don Anelli, and with me tonight is my special guest, Kevin Nickelson.
Hey, y'all.
All right, so for tonight's episode, we are going to be talking our top 10 favorite Satanic Cult films. So I'm kind of excited about this one. I think we're going to have some fun with it, but before we get started, this was your choice. So what was the inspiration for the topic, and anything else that you want to bring to the table?
Well, I've always thought that the best horror films are not just your standard good versus evil, but in the satanic cult variety, it's evil is usually portrayed as an overwhelming, presence. Kind of an army of bad guys, and the good is usually a lone group, or a lone, just a one person. And so I like that whole thing of going up against impossible odds to try to stop the bad guys, so to speak. And sometimes you don't win, which makes for some of the best films. Some of the films you'll see on my, as we'll discuss on my list, have dour endings, have where the bad guys win, that kind of thing. But I like that whole, it's kind of like a David against Goliath, good guys versus bad.
Nice. All right. So, I've always kind of enjoyed, a nice, hero overcomes the odds kind of a story. But the idea of losing out at the end just because in real life, you don't always win either. Sometimes the bad guys win. And I don't want every story to be like that, because even that would become cliche and boring. But the idea of having a few times where the bad guy wins out, those are kind of fun. And if done right, I think they can work out. And how are you supposed to actually beat the devil? That's kind of the big question point looming over most of these. So this
there's an old saying, I'm not sure where it first started, where it says that evil usually triumphs unless good is very, very careful. And I don't know, maybe I got it from a Star Trek episode or something. I usually get a lot of things from Star Trek, but that's a different show. But no, and that's kind of how I believe it, that evil is this cold, calculating, epic, kind of force. And unless you're very, astute to it, or you're very, just very careful as a good person, you're going to lose. And what I find is that when the good people who have knowledge that most people don't about evil, that's where they usually, win. Hey, the good guy is a pretty formidable opponent here. So that's what we'll talk about that too, is some of these films.
All right, nice. So I think with that, it's time to head on into our list. So would you like to go first, or did you want me to kick things off? I have no quarries with either one. It's up to you.
Well, I understand. I mean, this formula is kind of new to me. I understand you were going 10-1. Is that right?
Yeah, we start at 10 and then we go down to 1, right?
Okay, because I have my 10, and I'll start if you like. I'll throw it out there.
Sure.
For me, at number 10, The Devil's Reign. This is a film that is 1975 from Sandy Howard produced, and Bryanston Productions. This is the film that renowned Satanist Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan in San Francisco served as an advisor on this film. So there's a lot of detail that's that's correct in it. There's a lot of it where you go, huh? I'm not sure about that, but this is a film that utilizes the southwestern locations, which I like. I think there's something creepy about um, the eccentrics that you find and the kind of rural locations where this type of horror is taking place in the American Southwest. And I like how they use that. There's a whole lot of cheese to this film. There's a whole lot of stuff where you really have to suspend belief, but enough of this really works for me. I like the cast. There's a lot of veteran stars in this film. This is the one where Ernest Borgnine ends up with a goat's head, as Jonathan Corbus, the chief, demon or the head of this cult. But the big thing is, you wait for the final 2 minutes where just about the entire cast melts like waxen figures in this kind of grotesque finale. It's worth it just to make it to that. And amongst the cast members that get waxed, basically, is John Travolta in a small part. So for those of you who are not John Travolta fans, you can relish in that he's melting away in the final 2 minutes here. But that's number 10 in my book.
Nice. We will be talking about that later tonight when it comes up on my list, because that's a crossover one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll give my thoughts on it then. But
sure.
My number 10, it's a recent one, but it's one that's won me over pretty much the second I watched it. I went with Anything for Jackson.
Okay.
So
and why?
Well, for one thing, I absolutely adore the main couple in this. I think they're just absolutely fantastic together. They're the grandparents that I would actually want to have, minus the satanic dabblings, but they portray themselves as the loving, long-standing couple that's actually trying to be material, that try to be like maternal and loving and caring, and then oh crap, they're doing it for the devil. The everything that they're doing, they're trying to keep her calm, they're trying to keep her safe, they're trying to not stress her out too much, but they're doing it not because they're trying to deliver an innocent child into the world. They're trying to do it to deliver the Antichrist. And when things start going wrong, the film just becomes this weird nightmare of all these kinds of weird creatures just showing up all over the place and just scaring them out of their wits, and they're unable to figure out what's going on, and they need help from their guru. But it does it in such a way that it keeps it interesting, it keeps it fresh. The kills in this are fantastic, the gore is amazing. It's a fun ride, it's just an absolute blast, made all the more apparent by the mere mention of the director's previous work, because everything this guy has done, everything, no matter what, everything else that this director has done has been Hallmark Channel Christmas movies. So everything that this guy is, the director of this film, has done before this film and after this film has been cheesy, romantic, holiday flavored Christmas, romance movies. And then all of a sudden you just stick the Satanic Cult film into the middle of it, and then he carries on and he starts doing more Christmas movies. And it's like, where the hell did this come from? And it's a film that works even if you don't know all of that backstory, but then you add that backstory into it, and it's like, this guy made an incredibly amazing and chilling film, and then everything else in his career is 180. It's bright and cheerful, or festive romance films, or at least that's what my mom tells me, because I haven't watched any of them, but I told her about it because I told her that because I told her what we were watching one day, and I noticed the name, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's done. I just watched the movie that this guy made, and I told her about it, and it was like, he made a movie you watch, and I go, yeah, and we started going back and forth, and that's actually how I discovered his career as a director because she knew his name from watching all of his films. And we looked up his catalog, and everything he's done has been Hallmark Channel Christmas movies, or at least, Hallmark Channel styled Christmas films. And then there's anything for Jackson stuck in the middle of it. And then everything else since has been, romance flavored films. And so we were kind of like just shocked and going back and forth, just discovering his filmography together. So, I mean,
It
yeah,
almost sounds like a 48-hour pass from boot camp. You're able to get away, and you can, or a 48-hour pass from a Catholic boot camp where you can go out and you can do whatever you want for 48 hours as long as you're back here, and it's the only one you're going to get for 10 years.
yeah, that I would that it sounds right, but yeah, I mean, as soon as I watched, because I visited her one day over the holidays, and the name popped up, and I recognized it, and I was like, oh, I just watched a movie that this guy made. I didn't know he made Hallmark Channel movies. And then she was
I
like,
kid
well,
about that because I know some
yeah,
people who do Hallmark Channel movies. The director Sam Irvin comes to mind, and certain things he likes about it. The scheduling and the budgeting and so forth. There's certain things that are nice about being constantly employed by Hallmark Channel,
yeah,
but I say this is also the same guy who's done Elvira's Haunted Hills and some really fun juicy horror and horror comedy stuff. And I said, do you feel stuck doing I don't know who's on the Hallmark Channel now, but say an Anne Hathaway Christmas Christmas special or something? He says no. I guess it's something that really pays the bills.
yeah.
But
But
I have not seen this one that you're talking about, anything for Jackson, but it does sound like something I think I would enjoy.
yeah, okay, so real quickly, so the plot
Yep.
of the film involves this older couple. They're at least in their 60s.
Okay.
They're like an older couple, and they abduct this young woman who the father's a pediatrician, so he's kind of like the child care birthing. He works in, like, delivering of babies and all that. And they kidnap this woman that he's treating as she's about to give birth, and they're trying to use her son to put the spirit of their recently deceased grandson in, and they're using black magic to do it. They've fallen in with the Satanic Cult, and they realize that they're able to transfer the soul of their grandson into another body, and they choose her to be the host because she's about to give birth. So
Cool.
they kidnap her and hold her hostage at their house, and they try to, keep her there for the last few weeks of pregnancy just to, like, be sure that the ceremony works. But it goes haywire, and weird stuff starts happening. So
But isn't it always like that when you make a black magic plan and then something weird starts happening?
yeah,
The shit's like all the plans that you make just tend to go up in smoke when you're using black magic. I don't know what it is.
yeah, it's
Uh,
almost kind of like the title Black Magic kind of informs you that something's not going to go right if you use it.
I mean, geez, you do a little dabbling with Satan and demonic spells, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose.
I know who would.
Who'd have thought? But that
Yeah,
sounds like a lot of fun. You say it's a recent film. I'm going to have to take note of that.
yeah. I believe it's on Shutter. It was either picked up or it was an exclusive, so it's on Shutter. So
Cool. Well, you know that most of mine on my list are going to be more old school,
yeah, that's kind of where
variety.
I kind of lent towards there as well. So
Yeah. And so as a matter of fact, at number 9, I have another one from the American Southwest, The Brotherhood of Satan, which is essentially a family gets trapped in a small town, and the town is filled with cultists that are looking for sacrifices, and they fall into the prey of this cult. Their cult leader, Strother Martin. Uh, Older fans of yours may remember him as a longtime character actor in many of '60s and '70s movie, and he really does look the nutty cult leader, basically with wild hair and things like that. And you might remember, he's the star, so to speak, of the movies, the Snake movies in the in the early '70s, and popped up. He's the guy that is in Cool Hand Luke and has that immortal line, "What we have here is a failure to communicate," and so forth. So this is another one of those ones where I like the locations. It seems like the dusty Southwest desert locales kind of lend a creepiness to supernatural goings on, and I don't know whether it's the small town type of thing where people feel like they're stuck. And in this case, they're not just stuck in a small town; they're stuck inside of a demonic hell. But it works. It works for me. This has the usual, kind of the veteran character cast: Strother Martin, L.Q. Jones, and a lot of other familiar faces in it, and it has some truly creepy moments. And it's where I recall, it's not a lot of huge special effects, but it's just one of those films where it's directed by veteran Bernard McVitie. But one of those films where you'll watch some scenes and you'll just feel like a little bit on edge, a little bit unnerved. There's some, something creepy going on here. And I love that kind of film that actually makes you squirm in your seat without the outrageous, the overt effects and so forth. Not that I have a problem necessarily with overt effects, because those can work if they're well done. But in this case, this one works with a minimum of that. So that's number 9 for me.
Nice. That's on my honorable mentions. I'm much like you. Although I kind of discovered it recently. I ended up
Sure.
picking up the Arrow Blu-ray, and it was actually the first I ever heard of it. They sent it to me for review, and it was the first I'd ever heard of it. So I was kind of shocked that it managed to slip me by, because I'm usually big on like the early '70s kind of like drive-in cult stuff. So
Sure.
so this one was kind of a surprise when I first picked it up, because I wasn't expecting much. I never heard of it, and it's like
Right.
something like that. I figured it would have been a little bit more. I would have figured it out, but I really enjoyed it. The
Yeah.
idea of the cult just holding this this prominent influence over the town, and everybody's just like they're trapped and they're confined, and there's like nowhere to go, and they're just like so desperate, and you never know what they're going to do. And I don't know if I was trying to think if you caught on to this, but every single one of them are all in their elderly stages. So there's like no like middle-aged people or younger there. It's like everybody's kind of, it just feels like this like weird kind of like nursing home gone wrong kind of a feel, but it's not the way you feel. It's not like the way where you think it's going, but oh yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it.
Well, to me,
But
it also has a lot of the people, this family that gets stuck in the town. It's almost like they're trapped in a twilight zone,
yeah, yeah,
kind of thing where they just can't leave
right, yeah,
the town. But I got what you're saying about the elderly, on it. I thought it was, you know, what is the, normally a satanic ritual involves lots of dancing and so forth. Are we going to have people in walkers and wheelchairs,
right, yeah,
doing that? But I think that was having to do with, more. I don't know if there's a certain horror element with ageism that's involved, elderly versus youth. You know, you wonder if this cult is going after the younger family because of their vitality, their energy, and
yeah,
things like that. But it is just creepy.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was
Yeah,
on my honorable mention, so yeah, that's a good one.
sure, great.
Yeah, so my number nine is another recent one. I do have a couple of others, but I mean, like I said, the majority of the list leans towards the classic era. But my number nine is Drive Angry. I had a lot.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun with this one. This to me is probably like the start of like the Nick Cage cult kind of era that he's in recently. So he plays a guy that he's already dead, but and he's condemned to hell. But he breaks out when he realizes that his it's either his son or his grandson. I can't remember. It's been a while, but I'm leaning towards son because I think I think it's his son. His son is being destined is being signaled by this satanic cult as the sacrifice to be offered for their next ceremony or something, and he heads out on this quest to stop them. While he
Uh-huh.
has this agent from hell who's trying to keep him in line, or trying to not keep him in line, but like contain him because he's escaped, and say hell has rules and you can't escape, and this guy's out on the world. This guy's out there trying to stop him and bring him back to safety where he belongs. I had a lot more fun with this than I thought. I mean, it's just a cheesy balls to the wall action film, just tons of stunt work, lots of explosions and chases and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily a true horror film in the the real horror elements to me are just like, the idea of the child being sentenced to be the next in line for this cults and their practices. But yeah, I had a
Yeah.
ton of fun with this one. I mean, Cage is just an absolute blast, just going over the top crazy and all of his stuff. I didn't mind Amber
When
Heard,
doesn't he go over the top crazy?
but I'm just saying is that to me, this is kind of like the start where he starts to
Yeah.
become that rage Cage that everybody knows and loves. I think this was the first film that I mean, there's points in the Wicker Man remake, and I mean, you can point to any of the films that he's done before that, but I think this is like the first time because it was kind of genre adjacent that I think it was
Mhm.
kind of like everybody just to me, it's kind of like that start where I think it just like brought it all out, and the
Right.
material works for him. He's great in it. Amber Heard doesn't do terribly, but William Finkner just stole the show, and I just absolutely loved everything he did with that one. He was a blast to watch. And I mean, like I said,
He is. Yeah,
yeah,
he is. He's one of those He's one of those actors
yeah,
who,
he's one of the best that guys.
well, he can go between playing a variety of roles, and in fact, he can go between playing the occasional lead role as well as excelling as a character actor. And he's wonderful here. I agree with you. This is an honorable mention for me because I think that I draw similarities to this in Cage's Ghost Rider films because in each of these instances he's got he's sentenced to hell, but he's got some greater force that's driving him to do good things. In this instance, break out of hell to go rescue rescue his granddaughter. Um, and so forth, and go after this, this cult. So he is, I don't know what it is, but there's something in Nicolas Cage's manic, obsessive characters that he plays. There's something that's kind of magnetic about them. Is that even as outrageous, as over the top as they are, you can still get behind them, and you kind of root for him. I think he overplays here, somewhat, but it's just the right amount of overplay.
Right. Yeah.
And I've been fascinated with this the director Patrick Lussier, who who did a previous film that I liked. I think I was one of the 5 people that liked it in all of America, which is Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000. So I liked some of his style of kinetic visuals and quick cuts that he has, and he has a very visceral style with the horror, with the horror feature especially. And so I was interested to see how he did here, and he really kind of does a nice job of portraying, what hell is kind of like, and so forth. And he does well with the pyrotechnic scenes, here as well. So yeah, I'm very high on this film.
Nice. All right. So that brings us to number 8.
Number 8. Let's go back to 1966. Eye of the Devil. This was an odd choice of director for this film, J. Lee Thompson, who was doing started out doing small crime quickies in Britain, and went on to do big budget actioners like The Guns of Navarone, major studio blow up the Nazi war factory, type of actioners. So you wouldn't think that he would be the choice that you go to tell a story of a wealthy vineyard owner who, while on holiday, he ends up meeting a very lovely lady. The vineyard owner is David Niven, and the leading lady is Deborah Carr. And he meets her and takes her, home to meet his family and so forth. But what she doesn't realize is that the reason for the success of his vineyard is because he is a key member of a devil cult, and that he has been he's going back home to be sacrificed and so forth. And she gets pulled into it, and she ends up battling for her life in this ornate home. It's become kind of a nightmare of terror, for her, as she is. Well, to get into it anymore, I'm going to give spoilers away. But it's a very sinister, kind of piece, a very eerie kind of piece. And Jay Lee does a phenomenal job with just with lighting, camera angles, the emphasis on character. There's some weird, just visuals that go on here, and it is, to me, it's just a treat to watch. You've got this cast from a major Hollywood studio that you would think in the 1970s and 80s wouldn't dare do a horror film. You had David Niven, you had Deborah Carr, you had Donald Pleasance, you had Sharon Tate, you had Edward Mulhare. You had this huge, this huge cast, and there's quite a bit of suspense, leading up to the finale as Deborah Carr is still trying to save her husband and herself. So, Eye of the Devil, classic film.
Nice. I've seen this maybe once or twice, so I'm not terribly familiar with it.
Right.
My memory is jogging me towards being positive, so it's probably one that I would want to revisit. But I mean, like I said, I don't have a lot of memories of it, so I can't comment much on it. But a lot of what I do have is of the positive side. I do agree. I do like the high end cast that you get in this kind of a film, and.
Sure.
Was Deborah Kerr also in The Innocents? Because I could swear that she's
Yes.
in that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was the governess.
I always get some of her. I always get her confused with a couple of the other girls from that time period. Just not by virtue of being unfamiliar with them, but just there's so many names in my head. It's trying to keep their filmographies intact. But yeah,
right.
Like I said, I wish I could say more, but not bad.
Right.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
So my number 8, we're going with the classic stuff. I went with Race with the Devil. Another classic film from the 70s. I always kind of
love it. Also my honorable mention. Also in my honorable mention.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, a kind of, another one of those, group of people out in the wilderness, they come across something that they're not supposed to. And, oh, wouldn't you know, it turns out to be a satanic cult performing a sacrifice. And now they have to run for their lives. Nothing much more than that, but, it trades a lot of atmosphere with action set pieces because you get a lot of, chases down the highway, and you get a lot of, kind of like duel inspired, back and forth kind of sequences. So I think they're kind of an influence rubbed off on that one a little bit. But again, a lot of, that early 70s kind of grindhouse atmosphere, just being out in the dusty Southwest, the idea of isolation, even within, the fact that they're in this town and everybody's in on it, that, I'm not sure if that's really a spoiler, but, it wouldn't be a movie if, there wouldn't be some secret alliances along the way. But yeah, this is just a blast. Speaking of, unsuspecting faces, Henry Fonda in this one just plays an absolute badass. I love the way that he just, is that kind of guy that just takes charge and just tries to, do his best to keep everybody out of harm's way.
I mean, Peter Fonda? Yeah.
Oh, Peter Fonda. Yeah. I get that family mixed up.
I can imagine Henry doing it, but no, you're absolutely right. It's a fun film.
Yeah, no, I get the Fondas mixed up, but yeah, no, I have a lot of, it's a lot of fun, and it's just an absolute blast. So yeah, my number 8 is. What you
I mean, one of the things that I really like about this film is kind of something that I look at in a lot of films that I like. And if I can watch a film where there's a big scene that everybody talks about and everybody likes, and I find a lesser known scene in the same film and it works, and if I find multiple numbers of lesser known scenes that work, that tells me that this is a film that that really works. What sells it for me? And to me, and everybody talks about like the final chase in Race with the Devil, and some of the bigger set pieces. There's a sequence where the entire group of the cult members are attacking the the motorhome as it's being driven, and so forth. The whole thing. And for me, the scene where you have the sacrifice that's being witnessed at night, so incredibly shot in a dim night setting, and you have Peter Fonda and Warren Oates looking through the binoculars, and their whole reaction to to seeing. They think at first that it's just kids getting kicks, and some nudity and sex going on and all this stuff. But then when he sees the dagger being plunged into the girl, and the look on his face was like, oh my God. And the whole suspense of that moment sells it for me. And when they're racing to get back into the vehicle and get going and so forth, that kind of, it's the actor reaction that sells it for me.
Yeah.
Another moment, it's kind of a quiet one, is when we see their dog is killed, and it's the dog is impaled up against the door to the motorhome, and it's sitting out there. The door is open for everybody in the area at this park, this mobile home park, or trailer park, to see, and no one's saying anything. And when Peter Fonda starts to just look around, he says, "Didn't anyone hear anything? Didn't anyone see it?" And he's getting just fed up. I thought that was extremely extremely well played, and then of course the finale. But yeah, that's a good one, and that's one of those ones that I'll watch on repeat viewing.
Nice. Yeah.
And you might miss something. You might catch something that you've never seen before. But number 7 for me goes back to 1943, a Val Lewton production called The Seventh Victim. And it's a young woman, Kim Hunter. Yeah, Kim Hunter was well before she was playing in Planet of the Apes as Zira. Her sister lives in New York's Greenwich Village and disappears, and she goes in search for her, and realizes that the group that the sister was involved with was a Satanic Cult, and that they have a lot to do with her disappearance. And this is one of those movies where there is no effect really, except shadow, lighting, camera angles, black and white photography. Val Lewton was known for his minimalist approach to just about everything, and that makes this film really work. Kim Hunter and Tom Conway, as a guy trying to help, who may be involved with it. You don't know about his character, but she really, and this is another one of those ones that's that is kind of dark, dank, doom and gloom type of film, where the character, the Hunter character, is this heroine, is kind of lost in this bleak world, and she's going to get absorbed into it like her sister unless somebody can help her. So that is The Seventh Victim from RKO 1943.
Yeah, this is another one I've seen maybe once or twice. I'm
probably
not
on cable television back in the 90s or something like that.
Yeah, I remember TCM used to air the crap out of this during Halloween.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not terribly familiar with a lot of Val Lewton stuff.
Sure,
I've probably seen I've seen everything, but I've probably only seen them maybe once or twice. But this was
sure,
always the one that stuck out to me, just because it was kind of just the different one. Because the other stuff that I remember, Cat People and I Walk with a Zombie, or I know that one's not
Curse the,
directed by him, but
yeah,
that's one that he had a major hand in. But yeah, that
right,
one was
right,
another big one that I really liked. Again, it's
sure,
another one that I wish I could say more, but I do have positive
sure.
recollections based on the memory, so
That's
not
good
bad.
enough.
Yeah. So yeah, my number
Would you?
seven,
Yeah.
my number seven, we came to it. It's The Devil's Reign. I'm
Yeah.
like
So
you.
you like it too. You're a fan
Yeah,
of it too, like I
yeah,
am. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this one. I love the fact that it's a dual pronged storyline where it starts off immediately where the family knows what's going on, and Shatner has to go deal with Corpus at his ranch. But then just that devilishly impressive way that he tricks Shatner into losing the bet and taking him hostage, and now you've got Tom Skerritt, who he has to save the day with trying to get his wife and everything involved. I just love that setup. I love the storyline there. The back and forth nature of trying to keep the book out of his hands. The way that they have to keep everything in line, and Shatner, not Shatner, but Borgnine has his cult, and just the way that he relishes playing that kind of a character. I don't know why he never did more. I mean, yeah, I love him as like the lovable grandpa, but I mean, he played a fantastic villain when he wanted to.
Yeah. He
And
did. Now, did you? I've gotten some complaint, criticism, or I've heard some criticism from people that they didn't exactly take it, seriously because of the all star or the star cast of veterans that are in, and especially during a time where they were doing like the big cast airport movies and things like that. Did that impact you when you watched The Devil's Reign, seeing Eddie Albert, Ernest Borgnine spot the star,
the first time,
kind of thing?
the first time I watched it, no, because I wasn't aware of most of them.
Mhm.
The first time I watched it, all I remember was Shatner and Scarrett. Shatner,
Yeah,
Scarrett, and Borgnine. Those are the only ones that I really knew. Once I've every over time, I kind of found out that there's a lot more going on in the cast. I mean, like you said, Eddie Albert's in this, and I never even recognized Travolta. I didn't know he was in this, so that was kind of a shock when I found out who he was. But yeah, I don't necessarily know that it's one of those spot the name kind of a players that a lot of people would really kind of have an issue
mm,
with. I mean, it's not like they're brought on for stunt casting. They're brought on because they're actually doing something. I mean, maybe the only one that would probably be wasted would be Ida Lupino, just because she just kind of stands there with the makeup and doesn't really say much. I
yeah,
mean, she's kind of like the only one that I think kind of like feels like stunt casting, but then that's just like so out of character for her that it just I mean, it's not like she's being
right.
brought in because that's like her role and that's something she does. But I mean, like she's kind of like the only one that I would say feels wasted.
Mm,
But yeah, like I said, the first time I watched it, I was only aware of like the main three. But other than that, it wasn't really an issue. Over time, maybe because I watched it and I was unaware that it was never really a boggling factor as like something that's stuck in my mind. Like you have to watch it because there's all these people in it. But
sure,
I can
sure,
understand the point, especially like I said, for people that are aware of it being heavily loaded with all stars before they
sure.
watched it. But I mean, as far as I can say, it wasn't much for me. So
Yeah, and it's not. It's certainly not much for me. For me either. Um, there's a lot of, and this is another one of those films. There's a lot of little moments that I like, in addition to what I said about at the top. Um, the little moments, like towards the finale when you have Eddie Albert pleading with the possessed William Shatner, that he could still save himself. He could still save his his family and so forth if he just destroys the book. Or just destroys the what is it, like
Yeah.
what do you want to call it, that sphere that that holds the
yeah,
if he
the
just
devil.
smashes it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And so
yeah, the devil's reign itself.
right.
I don't
And
really
that's
know.
what,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I don't know what they called it.
I don't either. But yeah, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. I mean, all I know
But
is
when
that
they
yeah,
the look on his face is like he's battling with himself for this moment, that there's still a core of spark of humanity in him, and finally he just throws it to the ground. I thought that was really really fun. And then that whole melting scene is just, they must have like went to every candle shop in Los Angeles to be able to get enough candles to melt all that wax.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure you have like every single one of them. Every single one of them has like a solo meltdown, and it's like a complete meltdown. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'd love to know what just the prosthetic budget on that one alone was, but
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely.
yeah,
But so yeah, interesting. We're not that far off on Devil's Reign for you with number 7 and
7.
me at number 10. Well, number 6 for me goes to that fine house of horror, Hammer Films, in 1975. Dennis Wheatley's novel turned into his novel, The Satanist, I think it is. It's turned into To the Devil a Daughter. And basically, it's what you have when a London businessman offers up his daughter to a cult for was it for prosperity purposes and things like that, and then he tries to sever the contract, double cross the cult, which by hiring, he happens to find that there's a vacationing occult expert and author in London, played by Richard Widmark, that he hires using some deception to protect his daughter, knowing that Christopher Lee, the cult leader, basically a defrocked priest, excommunicated priest named Father Rayner, has targeted her for a grisly sexual encounter that will bring forth the devil's child, or bring forth Satan back on back on Earth. So it becomes Christopher Lee and his uh, you know powerful cult versus Richard Widmark for the fate of this young girl. Now, it's interesting is that one of the things I liked about it is that this was, all shot on some wonderful locations, from London to West Wickham, and it has those typical great locations that Hammer could utilize of these old churches and things like that, to add a spooky atmosphere to it all. It has Christopher Lee and Richard Widmark, two absolute pros who play it to the hilt. In spite of the fact that Richard Widmark jokingly commented, because of the color coding of script rewrites that were coming to him, different colors and so forth. They were wildly color coded, and he called it a Mickey Mouse operation. Half of it, half jokingly. But and the girl is Nastasia Kinski. And what's interesting is that she has nude scenes in the film, but she was underage, and they were able to, to get away with it. But in any case, this film really, works with some of the Hammer. It has Honor Blackman in a supporting role. It has Denham Elliott as the businessman. It has some creepy effects scenes, including a kind of revolting birthing sequence that just really works for me. And it was done right after, in the wake of The Exorcist, so forth. It was kind of Hammer's attempt to capitalize on The Exorcist, and it made some money, but it didn't really do enough to help save Hammer, who was in financial trouble at the time. But it's a really well done film, and I, in spite of a few flaws, I really like it.
So my number 6 is To the Devil a Daughter.
Oh, we are. You know what? It's scary that we are.
That was weird. I thought this one was kind of be like my under the radar, like sneaky pick kind of a thing, because I've always kind of enjoyed this one as well.
Sure.
I've never understood 70s Hammer. It's always been a mystery to me why. It's not in the sense that I think it's like bad stuff, but to me, 70s Hammer is one of my favorite eras. Just because I absolutely love their melding of gothic atmosphere with the more enhanced sleaze that was coming out of Europe and Spain and Italy at the time.
Sure.
And their Karnstein trilogy is just absolutely epic. I love all three. I actually even like
Yay!
I even like Lust for a Vampire. I think that one's criminally underrated. I've always felt that its main problem is that it's bookended by two of the best in the genre, and it's always kind of been like the forgotten stepchild, and it does have its issues, but I even still like that one. But their two Dracula films aren't that bad. I really like 8072, and Satanic Rites has its moments, but I'd love to see somebody take another crack at that one. I think that one would be ripe for remake. But all told, I've always really enjoyed 70s Hammer, and this was the one that it stood out to me just because outside of the two Dracula films, this is the modern day adaptation, and this is the one that takes place in the current day, and all the other stuff are period pieces, like what they'd been doing since the 50s. So it has this weird kind of like dreary, dreamy atmosphere that kind of like rivals it kind of like rivals their contemporaries a little, but it still has that gothic flair that they were just absolute masters at. Lee is just chewing scenery. I mean, there's just absolutely no other way to describe that performance. I mean, he's just chewing scenery, and when you get Christopher Lee to chew scenery, to me, he's an absolute master at it. When he's trying to be composed and when he's trying to give a performance, I think he comes off hammy. But when you just let him chew scenery and just let him go and say, okay, Chris, do your thing, to me, he's one of the best in the genre at it. And he just absolutely goes ham on this role, and I love him for it. And then you have him acting against Richard Widmark, and the comparison is just absolutely bizarre, but it's just magnetic, and you can't stop watching it. So I mean, those scenes are just fantastic together. The finale kind of drags a little over what it could have been. I mean, you could probably trim this down by a few minutes, but I'm not that imposed by it. And you kind of have to deal with that Natasha Kinski stuff. But I mean, overall,
the problem that the thing is, I'll tell you, the only point that you and I really differ on this is that I do think the film drags a bit, but it's more in the midsection. The ending is rushed. I know that Hammer was the funding was running out, for the film, they got funding from a German company, Terra Kunst and Terra Film Kunst, and I know that I believe the funding was running out, so the original ending that they had planned, which was more elaborate, did not happen. And so you have one of the few flaws with the film is that you have this, basically you have a rock being thrown at Christopher Lee, falls to the ground. There's a white light, and that's it.
Oh,
he's dead.
Oh,
and I'm like,
okay.
That's it.
No.
That's it.
Okay. No. Now that you say that, maybe I'm thinking of some other movie.
Well, you
Maybe
might be. Are
may,
you thinking of possibly the other Dennis Wheatley novel, which they did, which was not with Widmark? They did it 8 years earlier. The Devil Rides Out.
maybe that's the end.
Which
Maybe
is
that's what
really,
I'm thinking of. Yeah, because I remember for some
yeah,
reason the ending to one of them was it felt like it dragged a little too long.
yeah.
I
Now
maybe
this
it,
one, Into the Devil, a Daughter, the ending is too short. It's the midsection that
okay.
kind of drags too long, and I have a problem with that when they actually do in the baby birthing scene. Uh, when they actually do show the infant, it looks more like a Muppet with Kensington gore on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because there was a cut of the film where they didn't show that, and I thought
Yeah.
that's the better cut. Don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's other than that, it is a remarkably well done film. It's just too bad that it did not help Hammer's financial status, being that a mere 4 years later they produced their last film and then they went into receivership. So, but To the Devil, a Daughter at number 6.
Yeah.
Number 5 goes back to not Hammer, but it goes back to Christopher Lee in 1960, when the producer Milton Subotsky came up, who would go on to do Amicus Films and so forth with Max Rosenberg, came up with a wicked little black and white chiller about witchcraft called City of the Dead. And this is the one. It started out on the video release in the United States as the horror hotel, with where they oddly insert a new title over what is obviously not the actual title of the film for VHS release. That's how I saw it. But A City of the Dead, it's about a young college student who is studying the history of witchcraft, and she's encouraged by her professor, played by Christopher Lee, to visit this town in Massachusetts called Whitewood, which has a steeped history in it. And she goes there. What the audience realizes, but she doesn't, is that the town is run by descendants of a witches cult that originally, when they were burned at the stake, had the witch Elizabeth Selwyn had vowed to get her revenge, and so the town's leaders, like I said, these are members of the cult hundreds of years later, who welcome this young girl only to see to it that she disappears and becomes a sacrifice for them. Well, a short time later, her brother and her boyfriend go to investigate, and that's when all hell breaks loose. And this is when it's filmed in black and white, very tense direction by John Moxey. who would go on to do a lot of stuff for some chillers for American television, like the Night Stalker movie and a few others. And Christopher Lee as the professor, who happens to be a cult member himself, very strong. He's kind of amongst an ensemble, so he's not really like the star. There's the bigger characters, the woman's brother played by Dennis Lotus, and Venetia Stevenson as the girl who is Venetia Stevenson is the girl who disappears, who starts the whole thing, and Pat Jessel plays this really innkeeper who happens to be the direct descendant of Elizabeth Selwyn. And so it's really got some creepy moments, especially when they show 1600s Salem and the burning witches and so forth. It's just a creepy film.
Yeah, we will talk about this one later. It's on my list. So yeah,
we're pretty much simpatico on some of these anyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was one, my number 5. I kind of felt it was a little symbolic to put the two of these together, just because I'm kind of a fan of both. This is the other Hammer film for me, Devil Rise Out. So to me, this one is all about the rituals trying to prevent the cult from winning. That's basically where a lot of the fun for me rides in, ironically rides out. To me, rides the film. I think they're just absolutely fun and over the top, and they're far more enjoyable than they have any right to be. And a lot of that, it's the visuals on screen, but it's also the buildup and the whole idea of. I was saying it earlier when Lee was allowed to go, choose scenery. This is another perfect example. Even though he's on the good guy side, because he just goes so over the top and he just like freaks out at everybody and he's like, "No, you idiot, do it this way." And I told you, stay in the damn circle. And just like the way
quickly join hands.
I know, and you almost feel like he's secretly on the other guy's side, but it's just another example of just when he's allowed to just chew the scenery, he just absolutely nails it. But the film is just an absolute blast, and it's just a ton of fun. Now that I kind of got since I got the things mixed up, I do remember that this is the one that it kind of has like the faulty ending, but I'm not gonna fault it. It's just a blast. And simpatico, keeping the two Hammer satanic chillers together. I thought it was only right to have it on my list. I do like this one a little bit more than To the Devil, so I have it before it. So yeah, number 5 is Devil Rides Out.
Well, I'm gonna I got my To the Devil Rides Out a little further coming up. So cool. I'll talk about it a little bit, bit more then. Number 4, 1957, from director Jacques Tourneur, Night of the Demon. And this is one of those ones that's Hammer-like. If Hammer were doing, it's black and white, supernatural chiller, but this is another one of those. This is a professor who's a debunker of occult events. Kind of a debunker, a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. Is at a conference in London, and he ends up running afoul of the of a wealthy landowner, so to speak, a wealthy Londoner who is a devoted devil worshiper, and it's played by character's name is Julian Carswell, and it becomes where the professor, played by Dana Andrews, gets pulled into this satanic curse that turns out to be very real. This is a movie that's based on the M.R. James story, Casting the Runes. It's essentially, if you're given this script of paper that has a spell cast on it, written on it. You're given this script of paper by someone who wants you dead. You don't know that you've had it handed to you. It's been slipped into your pocket, or it's been in stuffed into a book that you had, or a wallet or something like that. And once you have it, you are doomed. And what's going to kill you is this demonic presence, as you see later in the film. And the only way for you to break the curse is to give the rune back. Again, using the same methodology, give it back to the person who gave it to you. And they have to be unaware that they have it, and so forth. And Carswell is quite well practiced at it. So, as it's about a skeptic who comes to believe his world comes unraveled. He comes to believe that there may in fact be supernatural forces at work. And it's really atmospheric. It's really got the scene where you finally do see the demon, which arrives on this ghostly midnight train. This demon in the sky is based on old woodcuts. It's really kind of scary. I think it's a classic film. It's another one that I could still watch some years later.
Oh, we're talking about that one later on in my list.
Oh,
yeah.
So you and I, our list is pretty close. It's just a little bit, the order's a little bit different.
All right.
Number 3.
Yeah. Well, no, my number 4.
You're number 4. That's right.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry. So my number 4 is the most recent one on the list, and it's the last of the modern ones. I went with Hereditary.
Good one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not necessarily, I think, a true satanic cult in the sense that, the practitioners aren't worshiping Satan per se, but rather a denizen of hell. So I figured that was kind of close enough to where it still counts. But I absolutely love this. It took me a while to come to it, and I kind of had to do a second take on it just to finally get all my thoughts together. But just the way that this comes together, everything building together to this fantastic reveal in the final half, I absolutely loved it. The way that it builds slowly and steadily, and you finally start realizing, to me, the whole clue is the title, and realizing Hereditary is not just not just a cool name, but it's actually a lot more meaningful when you start putting pieces together and you realize the family, it's not just them that are just being subjected to these horrific events, but it's a genuine curse, and it's a curse enacted by this cult, and what they're trying to do and how they're going to go about it and what it all means. I absolutely love this. I think it's one of the finest horror films of the past decade. It's definitely to me, one of the best of the 20th century. Even it just absolutely floored me once I finally started putting everything together. I have a friend of mine that every time I talk to him, I always thank him for what he did, because listening to him and listening to his thoughts about it, and then doing my second watch with those in mind, it just absolutely floored me putting everything together. So to me, it had to make my list. I only slipped it back a little just because it's not technically a true people that worship the devil, but rather, like I said, a
It's close
denizen.
enough.
It's close enough,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it makes the list, but it's not number one. Based on the quality of the film, it would be a number one, but because it's not, a person that's technically worshiping Satan, it kind of slipped up the cracks a little. So
Right. No,
yeah.
I got wind of this film because I'm a fan of Ari Aster, who directed it, and I had seen great folk horror that he did called Midsummer, and I wanted to find out more because I think he was a great visual mind, as far as the director is concerned. So I wanted to find out more about him. And so when I found out that he did Hereditary, certainly because I'm a fan of a very underappreciated, underrated actress, Toni Collette, um, who I just had to see it. And there's a wonderful veteran actor, Gabriel Byrne, that has a big role in it. Hereditary has got some creepy sequences as um, as far as I'm concerned, and I like that whole grieving family scenario. Um, and it's kind of like you see the secrets in their closet get revealed, slowly. And sometimes it's the horror. A horror film is about the decisions that we make and the secrets that we keep, and more so than any like physical, demon or giant monster.
Yeah.
And this one, it works. It really does work for me.
Nice. So I think
Those
now, yeah, that finally brings us to round three.
Number three, Rosemary's Baby. I saw this. I must have been like 12, 13 years old and I was on local cable or something like that. And I couldn't have a New York brownstone creep me out more than this particular location. The way that Roman Polanski shot it, the way that it's well lit, the way that the music that plays in the that plays in it, the soundtrack. It's everything that can be physically creepy in a horror film or add to creepiness. It's this, and often it's in broad daylight. And to me, there's none better who could present that kind of unsettling, quietly unsettling atmosphere in broad daylight than Roman Polanski. And you've got, it's basically a young couple having problems conceiving. They're trying to conceive, and they move into this particular brownstone in New York, and they finally are able to conceive, but the young mother starts to notice the neighbors around them are quite this creepy little lot, and who seem to have taken quite the interest, not in her necessarily, but in her unborn child. and her husband may be involved, in it. And that's just the beginning. This is a marvelous chiller, so I won't give away too much more. Um, but it's one that, to me, it's another one of those ones that if you had CGI effects added, to it, if you had gore scenes added to it, it just wouldn't work. It works perfectly for what it is. The lack of gore. It still manages the tension, the creeping, the creepiness, the whole thing. It just it's a great film, and I don't think I would really question if they ever opt to try to remake it.
Yeah. I'm so in agreement with that. Number
Yeah.
three, Rosemary's Baby.
I tell you, we're pretty good. We're like Siskel and
Yeah.
Ebert. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really say it more than that. I mean, just yeah, the whole thing that to me one, because I initially when I first saw it, this was like one of like the first times I ever really delved into like the classic era because I was always someone that just by virtue of being around at the time I started getting into the genre fair, I was always more into like the modern stuff, like the current stuff, like this
Sure.
like the late 90s, early 2000s when I kind of got into it. That was kind of like where a lot of the stuff I watched, and maybe I dive into the 80s or like late 70s or something like that. But this was Rosemary's Baby was like one of the first times I ever really went back in like watched the classic era stuff, and the whole idea of everybody's politeness for deviant means just it
Mhm.
absolutely chills me. And to me that's one of the few things that kind of just draws me in is polite and cordial and courteous, but it's not because they're being kind and generous and they're wanting to like offer friendship and reciprocation, but they're doing it because they're wanting something out of you. And the whole idea of
Mhm.
doing it because it's all about delivering the devil himself. And
Sure.
the tricking that they do to instigate everything, and gaslighting her into believing otherwise, and all the stuff that's going on, it's just an absolute masterwork. And then
Mhm.
you throw on just Polanski's just absolutely fantastic cinematography, and just like you said, capturing this brownstone New York apartment. Everything in that just it's just chilling. And yeah,
Yeah.
it just won me over, and it just works.
Well, you mentioned someone who would think that this Ruth Gordon is this kindly grandma
Right, yeah.
type, and she is um, one of the cult leaders.
Right, yeah.
She doesn't want anything kind to you. She wants you to die, and she wants to take the baby for Satan. So this is
Yeah.
not. I mean, hiding behind this gentle veneer was like you said, it's unsettling that these normal looking people are just not
Yeah.
normal at all.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it was like one of the first ones that actually got me, especially
right,
at the time when I first watched it. My girlfriend,
yeah,
her sister was actually pregnant, so a lot of like the stuff in the second act where it's all about like the what should be like the joy of a mother giving birth is just rendered absolutely just pulled out from underneath you, and it just becomes creepy and unnerving and unsettling because you realize what they're doing. And being around my girlfriend and her sister at the time who was like that, it kind of just like added an extra layer because I definitely remember kind of being around her and like, hearing like the meetings and like the doctor's appointments and just kind of like giving side eyes at like what she was saying, just because it kind of was reminding me of the film itself, and just like the way this one twists everything around from what you would think and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of just like hit extra home for me just thinking about it a little bit more. So yeah.
I think I came out of the film. I think I came out of the film thinking, I am never going to move into a brownstone in New York, ever. Never, never, ever, 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 ever. Nope, you can't make me do it. No.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, I definitely would not. I wouldn't feel bad about somebody who said that.
Well, I'm just going to say number two for me was again The Devil Rides Out. Talked about it. I'll just say I agree with you on everything that you said. I was a little bit let down by the finale, but some wonderful dialogue, crisp moments. I think you talked about Christopher Lee overplaying. I think his best moment is when he in the film is when he underplays, and that is at the when they witness the ceremony that's taking place outside of Makata's mansion, and when they do the dance, the ritual, and so forth, and all of a sudden Satan comes out, shows up on horseback. That whole thing, because I didn't fully realize the way it's unfurled in the scene. It's kind of a slow buildup, and you're not sure exactly what's going to happen next. So not only does this being appear on horseback, but it's when Christopher Lee says, "The goat of Mendes," the devil himself, and he says it like with a real pained look, like, my God, we've just witnessed this. And it's like you have to sell that moment as an actor, and so he really, in order for it to work, so he really sold it. And I think it's kind of underplaying. Really, there's no wild gesticulation,
Yeah.
no shouting and things like that. But and Charles Gray as Makata, I like when he tells was it Christopher Lee's niece when he comes to visit their home, and he's already tried to hypnotize her and take control of her, and it works until the little girl enters and everything is broken up, and she orders him to leave, and he goes, "I shan't be back, but something will." And
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, mother."
Yeah. Yeah.
So well played. Well played.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. So
Yeah. Okay. So what's your number two?
So my number two, both of these are ones that you mentioned.
Sure.
So I went with City of the Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that one first. I put that one at number two. I absolutely just love this one. This almost could have been like a B tier Hammer film. Just the atmosphere
Sure.
of this is just absolutely masterful. I love the village. I love the idea of the two-pronged storyline, and this is kind of like what I mentioned earlier with Devil's Reign, where you have the two-pronged storylines. The daughter disappears at the beginning, and then the majority of the film is the search for what happened. Obviously I love that kind of storyline, and I'm a huge fan of what they do with it here. Keeping Lee reserved at first, and then making him not as over the top, but still just creepy and menacing when he's revealed as the head. It's fantastic. And like you were saying earlier, just the way that it just unfurls, and you're just wondering like what's going on, and all this just like mystery and build up. It just works for me. Yeah. I wish I could say more, but you already said it so well. So yeah, number two for me is City of the Dead. Or as I
Cool.
should say, because I was like you, I first saw it as Horror Hotel. So yeah, I
My
was.
my first recollection of it was the poster that said the ad campaign that said "Ring for Doom Service," and I kept thinking, is this some kind of like creepy Holiday Inn or something like uh, something like that? I mean, okay,
Yeah.
but it was a catch. It was catchy,
Mm.
but definitely. All right, so I guess we're having to build up to number one.
Right.
Is there a timpani roll or some music to build dun 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 um,
Um,
okay, well, number one for me has to do with it's kind of I'll say this is kind of a tribute to the late great Richard Donner, um, director who passed away was a year or so ago.
it was
And
recent. Yeah. Yeah. It was recent.
yeah, um, so you're the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, and his wife, talking about the Thorns, Robert Thorne and his wife, um, about to have a baby who is born stillborn. Fortunate for the hospital, an offer comes for a um, another baby to take the child's place, and Mr. Thorne is convinced that his wife will suffer severe mental trauma if she's told that the child is still born. So he agrees to have this orphan baby take the place of the stillborn child. And what happens next is the child grows to the child grows up to 5 years of age. The film kind of advances to the child um, having a 5 year age 5 birthday party. And there's a series of mysterious accidents that are claiming lives of those close to the family. Well, the photographer who's been tracking all this comes up to Thorne um, and provides evidence to him that the child is actually the son of Satan, and that those people that are around, those mysterious accidents, are uh, in a way destined murders. And when I'm talking about The Omen, of course, um, this is I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. Certainly a masterpiece in modern horror. At times, it's filmed on extensive locations in and around the UK. At times, it has a feel in some scenes like a Hammer film. There's a scene that happens in a graveyard where the photographer and the David Warner's character, and Gregory Peck's character are looking to find out what actually happened to the stillborn baby and so forth, and um, they come to realize that the stillborn baby or the baby was not stillborn; it was murdered, so that Robert Thorne would accept the other baby, Damien, as the child. So there's a scene in there where they're attacked by Rottweilers as they're being chased through the cemetery. That speaks to me as a Hammer film. This has got so many wonderful horror set pieces, so many memorable moments. I can go on for a couple hours, regarding it. I'll just say it's just one of the best films, and Billy Whitelaw as Mrs. Baylock is one of the creepiest nanny monsters I ever did see. And when I watch, there's a sequence where she gets her just desserts. I actually, I think the first time I saw it, even as a kid, I actually stood up in my chair and went, yes. But
Mm.
no, Omen, number one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this was number one on my list as well, but I felt one person doesn't make a cult. I would have wanted, if we were putting this under the guidelines of like a cult of Satan worshipers, I wanted more than one person. And we only really get her as kind of like the devil's disciple. So even though
I guess I just
I'm
understood that it was
I'm
more
in
than just her.
yeah, I understand that, but to me, I would have wanted at least evidence of that. I mean, even if they come in at the church at the very end, if they're the ones
Sure.
that's, I mean, even if they're, if all we get is one scene of, these robed figures coming into the church at the end and dealing with, Thorne's body, and we kind of get the sense that, they're taking the body and, they're going to prepare it and, do their thing with it. Even if that's the only scene we get, I would have included it because I'm
Right.
in a complete agreement. But I felt under the
Sure.
guidelines of there being, like a cult, I would have wanted there to actually have been more evidence of a cult's presence. But I'm
Now,
only
see,
just,
I saw
but
that with the I saw it with how the baby doesn't
it has
just
to be, yeah, there has to
get
be, because
placed.
there has to be,
Yeah.
exactly, just because of how it plays out. But I would have
Sure.
wanted that, and that to me, like I said, this
You
is
want
my
to see
only,
it.
yeah, I would have
Yeah.
at least wanted that sense to, instead of doing mental gymnastics to realize, oh, they had to have done that just because of, the orchestration and the planning and just, how it all transpired. I would have wanted
Sure.
to see that instead of, thinking, okay, they had to have done it. And believe me, that is the only justification I'm making for keeping it off my list. Because when I first put this together, like I said, I had it at number one. Just, I'm in complete agreement. I think it's one of the 10
Sure.
best films of all time. So
Sure. Okay.
yeah,
I get you though.
yeah, that's,
I get you.
yeah, like I said, that's the only reason for it because otherwise I had it at number one.
All right.
But once I kind of came to that conclusion and I started fitting it together, it kind of stood out because there wasn't enough of a cult presence.
Okay.
And so it kind of bumped it off my list and it replaced it with what was number two at the time, Curse of the Demon. And I'm saying Curse of the Demon because that's the title I know it under, not Night of the Demon. But I know it as Curse of the Demon.
Sure.
But other than that, yeah, you said it best. This is one of the best of the to me, I think this is probably one of the top five films from the 50s.
Sure.
I I would stick it up there, and I would have it battle it out with the majority of the films from that period. It's
Sure.
one of my favorite 50s films, and it's also one of my favorite black and white films. Just the moodiness, the atmosphere, like you said, just the way that he plays those tricks and the way that they come off as, that they came from him, without a doubt. But there's always just that hint in your mind. It's like, is he really imagining it or did they really occur? And the film just absolutely pulls that off without,
Sure.
it's just masterful at it. And then you
It
throw
leaves you wondering.
exactly. And
It leaves you wondering.
it's
Yeah.
it's a fantastic trick and it just leaves for a fantastic buildup. And then that finale, just, oh my God, that monster is just so glorious. I want to kiss it. I mean, yeah, he's just, yeah, it's a work of art, and you don't see him until then. So it's they save it for when they needed it, and I'm a huge fan of that. Would I have wanted to see him just running throughout the film and knocking
No.
off everybody? No, because that ruins the illusion, and that
As a
ruins.
matter of fact, that was that woodcut creature sequence almost never made it to the film.
No,
It was it Jacques Tourneur didn't really want that. He wanted it to be left to the to the imagination. It was only, I believe, it was studio interference that said we have to sell it on some kind of visual presence of a demon. and sell the film. And so, in fact, if you read Casting of the Runes by M.R. James, the story that was based on, there is a lot more of, is this real, or is this somebody's delusion? That kind of thing. I think you're right. I think that's exactly why it works. But I do like seeing that demon image. It, like I said, it is based on old woodcuts. I think it's from 15th or 16th century. Something.
I'm not terribly familiar with that, but that would make a
Yeah.
lot of sense just because that is not a modern design at all. That thing is way too archaic. Yeah. I would completely believe that, and it works for the film because it's old magic. It's not new stuff. So it being based on an old design, that makes complete sense. I mean, I'm not familiar enough to know more than that, but yeah, that I would buy that completely.
Would you also agree that I think that there are very few other actors other than Dana Andrews to pull off the skeptic who becomes unglued in a sense as these events are happening through the film, to the point where he's running at the end as well. And I think there's few other actors that could pull that off.
Yeah, I would probably have to think of like higher scale or higher budgeted, like a higher tier kind of an actor to play that kind of a role, but then that would kind of just change the chemistry and the magic in the film. So, I mean, yeah.
I know, you think John Wayne would work? You think John Wayne would work on it?
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of my first thought when you said that, my first thought for some reason was like Jimmy Stewart.
I still can't buy it. I still.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I mean, to me, I'm thinking like like an A-list kind of like a Hollywood. I'm thinking like because I mean, this is let's be real, it is a B film, but so I'm thinking like an A-list kind of a like somebody like
I could see a Gregory Peck. We're talking about The Omen.
Before. At that time period, I could see him do it.
But not Jimmy Stewart. When I think of the supernatural stuff, I think of Bell Book and Candle, which is more of supernatural comedy than anything. Yeah.
Well, here's another name, and this one just came to me. Because I was thinking of Hitchcock. What about Raymond Burr? I think he would be kind of fun in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, he would be fun in either role. As the Julian Carswell character.
Carswell, yeah, he would be kind of cool as Carswell. Just give him a mustache or something, or mustache or a goatee.
He plays the killer in, or the accused killer in Rear Window.
Right. Yeah.
And he's made a career. He made a career out of playing bad guys as well as playing Perry Mason in Ironside. But he would have worked very
that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I mean, if recasting it, that would be an interesting one. Yeah. But
I could also see in the hero role, I could also see a Cary Grant for some reason in that role, just based on that he was doing, he was playing in other Hitchcock films. He had done several Hitchcock films, and he could be a serious actor when he needed to be. And
that would even be interesting. Grant and Burr.
Yeah.
That would be a fun little duel. I'd like to see those guys match wits.
Oh yeah. That it's fun to watch James Stewart and Raymond Burr match wits in Rear Window. So but hey man, I enjoy. We are pretty much alike on this list. This is scary. I thought my sanity was the only one that was questionable, but you're right there with me.
Oh I kind of have a knack for that. So
it's disturbing, man.
I was actually surprised that I mean, I knew we would cross over just because, some of the choices would be obvious, but I never expected us to nail placement on two different films. We had two different
Right.
we had two films slotted exactly the same, and that was, to me, that once is weird, two is just wow. That was the part that got
Yeah.
me.
Now, I can tell you that I actually had some honorable mentions, just a couple. I'll throw it out real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, well, there's one, it's actually, this is more like, Lovecraft than Devil Cult. It is about a cult, but not necessarily one that worships Satan, but it's a movie called The Deep Ones. Um, so this is a more recent film,
Hmm.
2020, I think, from director Chad Farron, and it's about a married couple that rents a beachside Airbnb, and they're surrounded by peculiar neighbors and occurrences. Kind of got that Rosemary's Baby kind of vibe, and they worship an ancient sea god, which happens to be located nearby. So this is a beachside, as I said, community, and there's some really, it's low budget, but there's some really interesting original things that are going on with this film, and I found myself really enjoying it. That's a good one. There's one from the 70s that I really like called Werewolves on Wheels,
Hmm.
and this is the biker gang that runs afoul of a satanic cult. They mess up a satanic cult ritual, so one of the cultists puts a spell on a member of the biker gang that causes him to turn into a werewolf and kill off members of uh, fellow gang members and so forth. And basically, it's about the rest of the gang trying to um, kill this werewolf and so forth. But this is one that has that nihilism. It does not have a happy ending, to it, but it is, I think, it's gritty. Uh, lurid, has some real shocks to it, and for a low budget film, it works.
Yeah, nice. I haven't seen Deep Ones, so I'm kind of intrigued at that. That sounds interesting. I'll definitely have to look into that one.
Yeah.
It's been ages since I've seen Werewolves on Wheels. I wouldn't know much about it unless I'm thinking of Werewolf of Washington. I
About the same. I mean, 2 years later, I think, or something, right around the same
Yeah,
time.
that's what I'm saying is that I get those two kind of mixed up. So definitely need to revisit them for sure.
No, Werewolves
So
on Wheels is something that it's like a. You could swear that Roger Corman had something to do it. He didn't,
yeah.
but it's his type of type of film. It's like Roger Corman meets Al Adamson or something like
Hmm.
something like that. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. So my honorable mentions, you had two of mine. You had Brotherhood of
sure,
Satan and Eyes of the Devil.
sure.
So the other ones I had on my list, I had The Sentinel. I wanted that thing on my list. I love that movie. Um,
I'm usually not one to leave out a movie that has John Carradine in it, and with that cast, it just didn't quite make.
yeah,
It would probably be an honorable mention for me too.
like I said, I love that movie. I wanted it on my list. I couldn't have. There's just 10 slots, and I couldn't fit it in anywhere. Yeah. And then the other one I had, another recent one, was The Void. I love that one. That one was fantastic.
Oh, that
I
one's gonna be. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to
Okay. Yeah,
look that one up too.
that one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's about a staff at this closing down hospital in the middle of nowhere, and they're on their last legs. They're about to close the facility. They're just running out of they're just duty bound to keep it running for the last couple days. and they get this strange visitor who claims to have escaped from the Satanic Cult. And turns out that the cult is willing to put their powers to use to get him back, and things just escalate from there. So
Wow.
yeah,
There's
it
there's
it
so many good ones though. There's so
yeah,
many good. The
yeah, that
Believers.
Believers. Yeah,
The Believers.
I've seen that one a couple of times, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There was another one
That
from the 80s. I'm trying to think.
Well, what you're trying to think is on the Believers. I kind of liked it because there's a certain sense of realism because it goes into this whole community um, uh, of the Santeria cult, and it's kind of there's a certain realism to it. I think that John Schlesinger was looking to go for, and it has really good performance. Martin Sheen, um, Helen Slater, Jimmy Smits is in it, and that's another one that has a really it's
mm,
not a happy ending,
yeah. Oh,
but yeah,
yeah. No, I found the one I was thinking of. Kind of on the
yeah, go ahead.
sleazy. Yeah, the one I found. It's a little on the sleazier side, but I always thought it was a lot of fun. I think it's from Spain, called Black Candles.
Black Candles, isn't that from just a few years ago, or am I?
No, it's
Oh, this is from
from.
the '80s. You said.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's from Spain. I want to say it's 81 or 82. My memory, the name I remember, but I don't remember I don't remember much else about it. Basically, it's about this couple that decide to take this trip out to this cabin in the woods, and they come across the markings of this satanic cult that's been in the area, and they're just they succumb to what's going on. Um, oh wait, no, that's another film. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking it up as well. So it's about a
The Jose Laris film
yeah,
is what?
that's the one
Sorry,
I'm thinking of. Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
was
we were
just
both looking at I think we were both looking it up. Yeah.
yeah. The wonderful European star Helga Line uh, having having a big role in this. I'll
Yeah.
have to check this one out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, because I looked it up as soon as because I was like, wait, that's not right. And then yeah, I looked it up, and yeah, it's by Laraz. Yeah,
right,
yeah, I was a fan of that one. The actual plot is about the woman who visits her sister-in-law, and she ends up discovering that her sister's become involved in the satanic cult, and they try to, free her from its grip, but the cult won't let go. So,
right.
yeah,
Another one I might mention just very quickly. I know if we're running out of time, but just very quickly, there's a film from 1991 which is fun called Servants of the Twilight, and it's uh, a young woman's child um, is earmarked is a child is targeted by a group that is convinced that it is Satan's child or a demon child, and she thinks it's these guys are crazed. These people are crazed killers just after her just after her child. So she hires a private detective to help protect her. And it's a movie that has all kinds of twists to it, where it turns out that the group may in fact be right. But it's Bruce Greenwood, who's had a pretty good career as a character actor. stars in it. It's called Servants of the Twilight, based on the Dean Koontz novel.
Wow,
And
I haven't heard of this one, so I'm definitely gonna have to check this one out.
yeah, I was working a graveyard shift job in much of the 90s, and so I would have ample opportunity to watch a lot of film even while at work, and so forth. So this was one of the titles that I just picked up on. It's one of those ones that just looked good from the Blockbuster shelf, and say, all right, I'll take a look at it. And it just kind of hit me, kind of bowled me over. But like I said, Bruce Greenwood, Belinda Bauer, Richard Bradford, starring in it. Good little film.
Nice, yeah. I'll that one and the other one, that Deep Ones you mentioned, I'll have to add that one to my list. Yeah, those are sounds interesting. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Well, we got some that are.
Yeah.
We got some that on each one's list. I'm going to have to check out anything for Jackson.
Yeah. So cool. Guess that brings us to the end of the show. So thank you so much for doing this. This was a blast, and glad we were able to get together and do this.
This was fabulous as far as I'm concerned. You mind if I give a shout out to? I'm a podcaster, myself, or at least a co-host of a
go ahead.
podcast. Check us out, the Grim and Bloody podcast. And our website's deathparadefilmfest.com. And from there, you can check out. We're a film fest started out. The founder of the site runs a film fest for horror short films and so forth in Northern California. And he created a site, and then we kind of started. I'm one of 4 hosts on a podcast where we talk about, we interview the latest, they interview indie horror director, actors, makeup people, just anybody that's involved in the community. And we've had some pretty big names on our show. It's for deathparadefilmfest.com, the Grim and Bloody Show. Check it out. We're also on YouTube.
Nice. Yeah. I will have everything linked down below in the show notes for you all to check out. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you again for doing this. This was so much fun.
Yeah. You're awesome. You're awesome, man. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, same here. So with that, we will see you next time with a great new episode. Until then.